Scorpio, this heaviness in your chest, it isn't weakness, and it isn't something you're supposed to ignore, push through, or hide under layers of strength. This fatigue that won't go away, no matter how much you rest or retreat, is not just physical or emotional. It's a message. It's a sacred warning whispered straight from your soul. It's the voice inside that's been growing quieter over the years because you've learned to listen more to the world than to yourself. It's the cry that echoes every time you agree when you want to say no. Every time you nod when you want to disappear. Every time you give when your own cup is already empty. You've been surviving by becoming what was expected of you, molding yourself into what felt safe. But in that safety, you've become a stranger to yourself. And the weight you carry is not just tiredness. It's the weight of that disconnection. Somewhere along the way, Scorpio, you stopped trusting the depths that once made you powerful. You started editing your emotions. You began measuring your worth based on how easy you were to be around, how useful you were to others, how unbothered you could appear. You didn't do this out of weakness. You did it to survive. You learned that being raw, honest, or vulnerable could make others uncomfortable. And instead of choosing the discomfort of truth, you chose the illusion of peace. But now that your body is telling you what your soul has always known, this kind of peace is not sustainable. This performance is not sustainable. This version of life where you carry everyone's pain, manage everyone's expectations, and still smile through your own exhaustion is slowly killing your light. And deep down, you feel it. You know you're not meant to live like this. You know this weight wasn't ever meant to be yours. For you, Scorpio, the pain has layers. On the surface, it shows up as fatigue, waking up already tired, lacking motivation, finding it hard to feel excited even about the things that once lit you up. But go deeper, and there's something else. A kind of sorrow, a kind of invisible grief. The kind that comes from abandoning yourself too many times. The grief of watching yourself disappear behind roles, behind responsibilities, behind masks that make you more palatable to others, but less recognizable to yourself. You've spent so much time being what others need that you no longer remember what you need. And it's this loss not of energy, but of identity that's pulling you under. That's where the real exhaustion lives. In the gap between who you've become and who you truly are, you've learned to be the anchor, the healer, the one who sees through the shadows and helps others face them. But who helps you face yours? Who holds space for your unraveling? For your breaking ND5, for your silence. You've made it so easy for others to lean on you that they've forgotten you too can fall. And in that forgetting, you've been left to pick yourself up in the dark, over and over again, with no witness, no applause, no help. You've taught everyone that you're strong, but that strength has come at a cost. Because you haven't just been strong, you've been silent. You've been self-sacrificing. You've been invisible. Scorpio, this isn't just burnout. It's betrayal, self-betrayal. And that's why no amount of sleep fixes it. Because sleep doesn't heal what suppression creates. And no retreat will bring peace if you return, still carrying the same patterns. What you need now is not more endurance. What you need is honesty. Radical. Uncomfortable. Soul-level honesty. You need to admit to yourself that something about the way you've been living is no longer aligned. That you've gone too long without listening to the voice within. That you've been running from your own truth under the disguise of loyalty, of love, of being there for everyone but yourself. And the longer you ignore this voice, the louder the exhaustion becomes. The truth is, your sensitivity was never a flaw. Your intensity was never a burden. Your deep emotions were never the problem. The problem was trying to hide them. The problem was shrinking them so you could fit into rooms that weren't built for people like you, people who feel everything, people who see too much. People who don't just scratch the surface, but drown in what's underneath. And now, Scorpio, your soul is asking you to come back. Not to the version of you that's been performing, but to the one who existed before the world convinced you that you were too much. The one who knew how to hold space for herself without apology. This fatigue, it's your initiation. It's not here to punish you. It's here to wake you up. It's here to say you don't have to live like this anymore. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't have to prove your worth through sacrifice. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to stay in spaces that drain you just because you're used to being the one who fixes everything. It's time to stop proving. Time to stop pretending. Time to stop pleasing. Time to stop hiding behind strength when what you really crave is softness, stillness, silence. It's okay to be done. It's okay to say, this version of me is tired, and I don't want to carry her anymore. Because the truth is, Scorpio, the version of you that was born from pressure, she's not the one who'll bring you peace. The version of you that survived betrayal, heartbreak, disappointment, she got you here. She was necessary, but she's not the one who will carry you forward. To go where you're going next, you'll need to let go. You'll need to listen to what this exhaustion has been trying to teach you all along, that the life you've built doesn't match the truth of who you are. And no matter how much you decorate it, no matter how many people approve of it, it will never feel like home if it doesn't reflect your soul. So stop. Just stop. Not forever, but long enough to feel again. Long enough to breathe again. Long enough to ask yourself, what do I want? Outside of anyone else's expectations, you don't have to have the answer right away. You don't have to burn your life down overnight. You just have to begin. Begin by admitting that you're tired, not just in body, but in spirit. Begin by saying no more often. Begin by honoring the signals your body has been sending. Begin by trusting that what feels heavy is not meant to be carried alone. Oh, at all. Begin by believing that you deserve a life that feeds your energy, not one that demands you burn it to survive. Scorpio, this is not your breaking. This is your return to softness, to self, to the sacred, unedited version of you that doesn't need to perform to be powerful, that doesn't need to fix to be loved, that doesn't need to be strong all the time to be worthy. The fatigue was never a flaw. It was the invitation. And now you know your soul is ready to come home. Scorpio, you've become the master of emotional disguise. You know how to smile when your heart is breaking. You know how to comfort others while silently collapsing inside. You've learned to play the role of the strong one so convincingly that even you forget, sometimes, that it's just a role, but behind the quiet strength, behind the calm exterior, behind the helpfulness and the I'm fine, there's a soul who has been quietly screaming for someone to notice that you're not okay. And the saddest part is that the person you needed to notice was you. Because while you were showing up for everyone else, you abandoned the one person who needed your love the most, yourself. This exhaustion you carry, it's not because you've been doing too much. It's because you've been denying too much. Denying your own needs, denying your own limits, denying your own truth. It's not the late nights or the early mornings that broke you. It's the years of pretending that you're not hurt, pretending that you're not tired, pretending that your silence doesn't cost you anything. You've been living a life that checks the boxes, keeps the peace, and earns the applause, but none of it truly feeds you. None of it touches that deep place inside where your real self waits patiently to be remembered. You've been showing the world your polished version, the Scorpio, who always knows what to do, always has the answer, always holds it together. But what about the Scorpio who doesn't? What about the one who feels too much? Who carries memories that still ache? Who longs for connection that doesn't require performance? You've buried her. Not because she wasn't worthy, but because the world told you she was too intense, too emocional, too complicated. So you became easier to digest. You simplified yourself. You dimmed your own depth. And now your spirit is tired, not from doing, but from hiding. The mask you wear may have kept you safe, but it has also kept you separated. Separated from yourself. Separated from the kind of life that actually aligns with who you are beneath all the survival strategies. And that separation has a price. It shows up in your energy, in your moods, in your relationships, in the quiet grief you feel even when everything looks okay on the outside. The pain of not being seen is real, but what hurts even more is not being seen by yourself. And until you take off the mask and face that unfiltered version of you, the fatigue will stay. Because it's not asking for more effort, it's asking for more truth. You were never meant to perform your life. Scorpio, you were meant to live it fully. Messily. Beautifully. Honestly. You were meant to love in ways that scare you, to speak truths that shake the room, to feel so deeply that it makes others uncomfortable. You were never too much. You were simply surrounded by people who asked you to be less so they could feel more, but that's not your job. Your job now is to come home, to stop abandoning yourself in rooms that don't understand you, to stop dressing up your pain in politeness, to stop smiling when you need to scream. The time for pretending is over. The mask is heavy because it was never meant to be worn for this long. So yes, the world may know a version of you that looks strong, capable, in control, but that's not the whole truth. And the longer you deny the rest of your truth, the more your body will speak on your behalf through this exhaustion. This isn't burnout from tasks. It's burnout from inauthenticity. And if you want to heal, it won't be through more doing. It'll be through more being. Being honest, being tender. Being quiet enough to hear what your soul has been trying to say for years. I miss you. I need you. I want you back. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to please. You are here to live. And the version of you that has been hiding behind emotional masks deserves to breathe again, not in secret, not in shame, but in the light of your own acceptance. Scorpio, your fatigue is not failure. It is feedback. And it's telling you, with every heavy breath, that it's time to stop performing and start returning. Not all Scorpio hearts carry the same kind of weariness. Though you may share a sign, the burdens you bear often mirror the unique emotional blueprint etched into your birth range. Each group holds a distinct wound hidden beneath the surface, yet heavy enough to leave lasting echoes in your body, in your choices, in your silence. For those born between October 23rd and November 1st, your fatigue stems from the relentless pressure to remain in control. You've always been the one who must stay composed, who must anticipate what others miss, who must prepare for every possible betrayal, disappointment, or emotional storm. Somewhere along the way, you internalized the belief that if you lost control, even for a moment, everything around you would collapse. So you kept your guard up, your heart locked down, and your mind 5 steps ahead. But the price of this control is steep. You've become so used to holding it together that you no longer know how to fall apart safely. And now your soul is weary not because you're weak, but because you've carried too much for too long without ever giving yourself permission to rest, to soften, to release. This isn't strength, it's survival, and your spirit is begging for something more honest than perfection. Those born between November 2nd and November 11th often carry the weight of other people's emotions, dreams, and dysfunction. You've been the emotional container for those around you. The secret keeper, the healer, the listener who understands what others can't even name. You were never taught to protect your own energy. You were taught to absorb, and so you did. You took in everyone's sorrow, their guilt, their rage, their shame, and tried to make it all make sense. But while you were soothing their wounds, yours began to bleed in silence. You thought love meant carrying the pain of those you cared about. You thought healing meant becoming the sponge for everything no one else wanted to feel. And now your exhaustion is deep and bone level, not because you're broken, but because you've been absorbing emotions that were never yours to hold. You don't need to become colder. You just need to remember that empathy doesn't require self-erasure. And then there are those born between November 12th and November 21st, whose tiredness comes from living a life that looks full but feels empty. You've mastered the art of appearing composed, successful, magnetic. You've built a life that others admire, a life that checks the boxes. But late at night, when the world is quiet and no one is watching, you feel the hollowness, the conversations that don't feed you, the relationships that don't see you, the routines that look purposeful but drain your soul. Your external life may seem in order, but your inner world feels barren, and that dissonance is exhausting. Because beauty without depth is just decoration, and success without alignment is just a distraction. You're not tired because you failed. You're tired because you've outgrown a life that no longer reflects your truth, and you're finally brave enough to admit it. Each of you carries your own version of spiritual fatigue. But in all of these variations, the root is the same. You've been disconnected from your essence for far too long. Your body knows it. Your emotions scream it. Your dreams whisper it. And if you're willing to listen, really listen, your soul will guide you back to where your true power lives. Not in control, not in caretaking, not in performance, but in authenticity, in rest, in truth, in choosing a life that feeds you from the inside out. Scorpio, it's time to stop trying to make everyone comfortable at the cost of your own truth. Stop performing. Stop adjusting yourself so others don't feel disturbed by your intensity. Stop apologizing for your silence, your sadness, your need to disconnect. And most of all, stop pretending you're fine when your soul is asking for something deeper. You've spent so long making yourself easy to love, easy to need, easy to rely on, but in the process, you've forgotten how to simply be without effort, without explanation, without guilt. The last 3 days of September open a powerful portal, an energetic threshold that's not loud or dramatic, but subtle and sacred. It's a moment of stillness, an invitation to return to what's real. These days are not just another part of the calendar. They are a soft but undeniable signal from the universe that you cannot keep living in ways that betray your inner world. This is where the pretending ends. This is where the truth begins. You are being asked to realign not through force, but through honesty, to draw new boundaries, not out of punishment, but out of self-respect, to reconnect with the energy that was always yours before you gave it away, trying to please everyone else. You don't need to shine by burning yourself out. You don't need to be everything to everyone to be worthy. Your light, when it's rooted in authenticity, doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need approval. It simply exists effortless, quiet, magnetic. The moment you stop sacrificing your truth to earn your place is the moment your true radiance begins to rise. That kind of light can't be faked. That kind of light can't be taken. It's yours. And it's been waiting patiently beneath the version of you that's been trying too hard to survive. So, as this chapter draws to a quiet close, Scorpio, I will not ask you to push forward, or to prove your strength one more time, or to carry what was never meant to be yours. Because this message was never about effort or achievement or endurance, it was about returning to yourself, to the version of you that has been waiting behind every performance, every pleasing gesture, every silent endurance. The version of you that remembers what it means to feel deeply, to move intuitively, to breathe without asking permission. And as the final 3 days of September unfold like a soft and sacred portal, I ask only this, that you give yourself the grace to stop running from your own truth and allow the exhaustion you feel to become not your enemy, but your guide, your witness, your first step home. Let these days pass through you like a gentle storm that does not destroy, but cleanses, that does not shake your foundation, but strips away everything that was never truly part of you in the first place. And in that stripping away, may you begin to remember that your worth was never tied to how much you give, or how much you hold, or how much you fix for everyone else. That your light was never dependent on applause or perfection or being the strongest one in the room. Because the truth is, Scorpio, your light is quiet but infinite. And when you stop forcing it to shine for others, it begins to illuminate everything from within. You don't need to be the savior, the solver, the one who always says, I'm fine. You only need to be real, and that realness will be enough. So let yourself rest, not because you've earned it, but because you're alive and human and sacred and soft, and because the body that carries your soul deserves gentleness, not just survival. Let yourself feel, not to fall apart, but to finally come back together in a way that doesn't require performance or apology. And let yourself be still long enough to hear what your spirit has been whispering all along, that you don't need to shine through sacrifice. You don't need to burn to be seen. You only need to allow the truth of who you are to rise, without resistance, without guilt, and without shame. This isn't the end. Scorpio, it's the unmarked beginning of a quieter, truer life. And though the world may not notice the shift right away, your soul will, and it will thank you in silence, in dreams, in the way your energy begins to return, not from effort, but from alignment. And in the coming days and months, you will look back on this moment not as a collapse, but as a holy reclamation, the moment when you stopped pretending, stopped pushing, stopped betraying yourself just to be loved, and started honoring the kind of love that begins within. Until next time, Scorpio, rest gently, live honestly, and let your truth rise like a tide that needs no permission, like a light that was never meant to be dimmed. And if no one else tells you this today, let me be the one to say, you don't need to do more to be enough. You don't need to fix what was never broken, and you don't need to keep carrying stories that were never yours. To begin with, your softness is strength. Your stillness is sacred. And your truth, exactly as it is already more than enough.